Hey guys, and welcome to the Performance Hub podcast, and thanks for tuning in. So before we get started, we want to let you guys know about an amazing offer we have going at the moment. Using the coupon code COMMUNITY, we have 1 month free access to the Performance Hub. So this is our online members site where we have tons of content from in-depth exercise tutorials, videos on different strength and conditioning methods, program templates, articles on nutrition, stress management, and just a ton more content. So head over to www.pikeperformance.uk to sign up and get started on that today. As well as that, below this video, we've linked all our social media channels, as well as all of our guest socials. So go and like and comment and share, as it really helps us to be able to produce more content for you guys, like the interview that we have today. Okay, so that's enough of that. Let's dive into today's interview and see what it's all about.
Well, let's sort of, we've basically already started, but I'll introduce you, for people that are listening. This is Dan Fallon, ex-Royal Navy PTI, I guess, if you're working for the Navy, but as a civilian now.
Yeah.
Published author, online trainer, personal trainer, Zoom trainer, and just general advocate for kind of a no bullshit approach to fitness, I guess. Yeah. Anything else? Oh, strong first certified instructor. Maybe the only one in Portsmouth. I don't know. Maybe I'm not sure.
I did that nearly 3 years ago. Now the thing is with that now, I didn't reset.
Okay, it's one of those you got to reset
every 2 years, and the reason I didn't reset more because my mobility, even to get through the first time, due to I've had quite a lot of surgery. I've had fractured neck and all that sort of stuff. So I had to work hard to get to that standard, anyways. But also, I think where my attention has been drawn elsewhere, certainly writing the book, the behaviour change side of things, to try and reset on that as well and get to that and invest this. The amount of training that you do. Don't get me wrong, I do Turkish kettle literally every day. But it's like, getting back up to the standard of doing a snatch
test.
Yeah, for 5 minutes with a 24 kilo. I think my shoulders are definitely feeling a little bit battered, and I think getting the kettlebell up above head with that velocity now, I don't do. For me, when I work with velocity, I like to just do the hard style swing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And even that now at the minute, because I'm due surgery on my right knee because of previous ACL injury.
Right.
I sort of tend to go more for the pace. Have you seen the kettlebell sport?
Yeah, it's slightly sort of more relaxed version.
It's a bit more,
swing,
yeah.
Isn't it?
I've been playing around with it just recently and watching my heart rate and how at that sort of, and I thought, you know what, I can get, because what it is for me is I don't run. Because my body literally does not tolerate running. My ankle and my knee. I tried for my absolute, sanity the other week. I thought, you know what, I'm feeling really strong, feeling really fit. Went onto the pitch and I thought, I'd see if I can just run, 30 seconds on, 2 minutes off, walking back. And the next day, ankle was just in a shit state. And that was only like 5 sets of 30 seconds.
You wear Vivo barefoots, don't you?
Yeah.
Were you running in those?
Only on the grass.
Okay.
So I definitely would not run on concrete in those bad boys.
Well, I did that.
A couple of years ago. That was through Strong First. And to be honest, I can't go back to wear anything else.
No, they're brilliant.
It doesn't feel right. It feels weird. Like when I wear, what did I wear the other day? I wore my Timberlands. I'm not worn for ages, and I thought
they're big as well.
Yeah. So I like the Vivos. They're really good. And then it's that tactile feedback in it, certainly when you're training. So yeah.
Yeah, I went for a run in for the first run in who knows how many years, since that, and I thought I'm going to get into running. It's lockdown, what have you, and did 5K, and it was agony on the knees and the hips, and it took my calves 6 days to recover after.
Yeah, honking. honking. And that's what a lot of people, that when they come to me with regards to rehabilitation and the transition, and we've got a gait clinic at work where one of the physios,
Brilliant.
he sort of takes that on board, and it's a funny old thing, because I can remember going on. I don't know if you've ever heard of Tom Goom.
I don't think so.
He's the running physio. If you ever get a chance to
Okay.
do his workshop, it's very reasonably priced as well. A little bit of a plug there for you there, Tom.
I'll check that out.
The
I'll put the link in the show notes.
Yeah, he. So I was at the time going across to thinking 4 foot was the best running style and all this, barefoot running, but the actual evidence doesn't support one more than the other. There's always problems with one or the other.
Right.
And when I came to the conclusion myself, on myself, it does for me. For me personally, I think it feels better to run 4 foot. It's a lot more gentler, definitely on my knee, and a lot more gentler on my lower back. However, would I, or do I, recommend a running style more than I do? Or do I recommend a preferred running style to anybody? I don't, because it's one of those things. I think the best thing you can do for a running pattern is strengthen it.
Mm.
And strengthen it by strengthening the structure that's involved in running. So your glutes, your calves.
Mm.
Well, doing lower body days, but single leg as well. I do.
Yeah, sure.
I do bang home about single leg stuff all the time, because it basically promotes more balance and proprioception. And we know evidence supports that they're the sort of things that are valuable in injury prevention and injury or reduce injury risk. So. But yeah, so do I prefer a running style? I do 4 foot, but would I change somebody's running style before I've looked at strengthening first? No.
So I'm gonna touch on a list of, on your Facebook wall. You put up an unpopular opinions list, and I feel like we're probably going to touch on a few. And one of those was that people shouldn't, potentially run on concrete.
Concrete, yeah. So Nick, a guy, he's a podiatrist, he sort of called me out on that as well. And I said, well, in my experience of, let's say, I looked on, the military use a thing called Rehabilitation Guru or Rehab Guru. It's a system, and it stores all the clients that you've come in contact with since using the system. I've been using it for about 2 years-ish. And and the system says I've come into contact with 317 patients, right? So that's just in 2 years. So let's say in the 7 years I've been contracting to the MOD, as well as not once have I actually come across anybody that truly tolerates running on concrete. Mm. And maybe the footwear has a big part to play with that, boot runs and stuff like that. But every time that I've gone to rehabilitate somebody back to being able to run, because that's part of their test, I've always gone treadmill first, then some soft ground, and then if they do need to, and I've say reduce the risk. And the thing is, yeah, we can say we stiffen up and we do cause tension stiffness when we're prepared to run on solid ground, and our brains react differently. But why put ourselves in that potential risk if we don't need to? I do understand that runners are more, you're having runners are more tolerant. They've got a tolerance to that impact on that ground. But if I was to say to anybody, any of the clients that I get in who are, a little bit out of shape sometimes, or never really got into fitness, or those sort of clients, I'm like, I wouldn't definitely not be running on concrete.
Yeah.
Because it's unforgiving at the end of the day. And they haven't got the biomechanics to do so, in my opinion, and in my experience. But again, there's not lots of evidence to support either grass, softer ground, or concrete. There's no evidence to support one or the other. But that doesn't mean to say that there could not be evidence in the future.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why my opinion came on that. And that just based literally on my experience. And then Nick started slinging out, evidence-based stuff, and I was like, yeah, I get it, but what's to say that there's not going to be evidence in the future?
Definitely.
A cohort of 1,000 runners that do trail running, and a cohort that do road running, road running marathons. What's the potential to injury? Who comes out with more injuries, and what are the injuries? And so that's where I sort of.
If you look at like compressive forces through the joints involved in running as well, it would make sense for someone who's come off the, couch to 5K, for example. It would make sense to maybe do a pre-couch to 5K kind of strength training program to build someone's ability to cope with those compressive forces. I know an ex-coach that I trained under, this is probably a very unpopular opinion, but he kind of said that people need to be able to squat double body weight before they go and run. But otherwise their joints aren't going to be able to cope with it. So maybe that's a little bit of an extreme opinion, but I think there's some validity in the kind of idea that people need to be strong before they run.
Well, listen, we all, certainly once you've been in the industry for many years, you start to come into, you start to gather a system in your head of what you want to potentially see in a client before you move them into other realms of fitness. So strength, for me, is always going to be the master quality, and it's like, what type of strength do I want to see? So I recently wrote an article for Men's Fitness on the bodyweight stuff, and it was 7 principles. One starting with bridge, single leg bridge, things like the bear crawl. Can you control your arm and leg whilst in that position? And then it was low plank, side plank, single arm plank, press up, and a Bulgarian split squat. And literally, those will be the things that I look at to see how people move and to see what their potential is for moving on to the sexier stuff. And the sexy stuff isn't like, things like what people would consider sexy. My sexy stuff is just like, a kettlebell swing or a clean, or, because I'm very simple, and when people come and work with me, certainly my new program that I've just released at the minute with Raid, that like people have been inquiring, loads of people have been inquiring about it, and I've had to turn like more or less everyone down, apart from I think I've got 10 on it at the minute, because it's a specific program that requires people to be at a certain standard before they even start it. Now, if I started bending that to suit people, it wouldn't be what it is, and it would be your more personal training. Whereas this is about group online training, which is the people that have already got a keen interest in, and they've already got a keen interest in how they move, how they produce force, how they can develop that further on through my programming with just a kettlebell and body weight. Whereas, like, if people are just starting out, like you say, from couch to 5K, their strengthening stuff will probably just be some online stuff, like, dare I say it, maybe Joe Wicks or, someone that's really at that general population level. But I think once people get into training and they start taking it serious, they soon realise that actually there's a lot more technical stuff to do with the simple stuff. It's like my saying that at the minute always to the guys. They send me messages through, like, we use True Coach, and it's like, that was really tough. It didn't look that tough on paper. I'm like, never mistake simple with easy. Easy with simple. And it's like the simple things are always people always want to do everything outside the box before they master inside the box. And it's like, listen, if you take the time, be patient, do the work, then you can move outside of that. And to be honest, even myself, I'm still inside the box. Still wanting to master what a deadlift feels like. Really sort of like when a lot of people train, when I've trained people one-on-one or I've done group training, they're like, some of them will walk away like, this is like yoga, you know, because you're so mindful of what you're doing, and people go, I need to put the weight on. You don't, mate. You can't control your thoracic spine during that deadlift on a, you know, maybe a 24 kilo. So you don't need to put the weight up yet. You need to be more focused on what you're trying to achieve. Once you've mastered one part of the deadlift, then master another part of it. And that's how. And but the thing is, though, with this, mate, it's not sexy, is it? And
well,
that's
like, yeah, focusing on kind of intramuscular tension and breathing is much less sexy than, you know, stacking 4 or 5 plates on the side of the bar, wrenching it off the ground, isn't it?
Yeah. Or driving your heart rate to an increased like 90% for, which there's a place for that. Don't get me wrong, and I do love that. But I think we tend to, in society, to skip past a lot of these basics, and then wonder why we get into a little bit of trouble and a little bit despondent when we've not mastered the basics. We're not understanding the ins and out of movement and strength, and we want to go straight into, you know, doing Frans and flipping, you know, which is cool, but it's like, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm quite opinionated on that, but
that's fine. I mean, it's good to have an opinion in fitness, and a lot of, you know, a lot of it is opinion driven, isn't it? You can find evidence to back up most opinions in fitness, you know.
And I always look for that.
Yeah, but so it you know, ultimately it comes down to your approach, doesn't it? But I think you've obviously got quite a no bullshit approach, and you wrote your books. Start with one thing. You know, Dad's no BS approach to fat loss and fitness. What kind of drove you to writing that? Who were you trying to appeal to for that?
Well, when I first stepped into the arena in this online scene, I had a meeting with Mike Samuels. I don't know if you've come across him.
I know the name.
Right, the copywriter.
Right.
His writing's phenomenal. Real great guy as well. Real down to earth. Local to us as well. He's only in Southampton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth getting on his email list, actually, because his emails are brilliant, and they really sort of give you an insight how to market ethically. You know, giving lots of value, lots of story-based stuff, letting the audience build a real relationship with you for who you are. And he said to me, if you're going to go down this route and you want to go and take it serious, he said, you need a specific audience to start with. So I thought, right, okay. I said, dads. He said, yeah, but what sort of dads? And I started thinking, you know, dads that are, you know, a bit out of shape, all that sort of stuff. I've been out of shape myself when I first had Poppy and stuff like that. And so I just started to sort of put some content out there, picked someone in my mind that was in my friends, started writing, they started connecting with me, started engaging. And then from there was just like, you know, it was solving their problems. You know, I've done this, you know, and it's not worked. And I've just given it blatant. It's like, you know, like anything in life, whether you're starting a business, whether you're doing a degree or whatever it is, you have to put the work in. You have to put the effort in. When you do put the effort in, you tend to get results. And that's all I was that's how it was laid out first. And then there was just all these nonsense questions and things about nutrition. And I was just like, wow, this is a world I'm not used to. Because if I'm really honest with you, I am out and out. I'm a movement guy and fitness guy. I've just connected with a guy based on nutrition who's coming to the group at the moment, who's quite similar beliefs in the sense, no bullshit with regards to nutrition and stuff like that. So we sort of come in and he's sort of giving some advice, but I don't tend to operate outside my scope of practice.
Sure, yeah.
So like, and I don't understand how the perception of PTs is they know everything about nutrition when actually we don't, not really. Only those that have gone and done CPD in nutrition, like, you know, like courses like what's on, you know, Ben Kuma's course or Mac Nutrition, whatever that is, or they've gone away and done degrees or whatever. that's the only way, really. But we're there to teach exercise. And one of the things that I'd started to develop an interested in not just in the online scene, but in my own job in rehab, is how behaviour is the definitive factor. So if we can't help someone change their behaviours and their habits, then how are we going to fit all the rest? And how are we going to get them to do a program? How are we going to help them to eat better and stuff like that? And behaviour change is based on values, beliefs. It's based on their experiences. It's based on their perception of every day, what's going into their mind and their mindset. So then I started to go, like, how can I simplify this and then put it into like a step-by-step guide in the book, and based on story. And then before I knew it, I'd had 30,000 words. It was like, wow, that's mental. But yeah, it was a simple. I wanted a really simple way to help this community of people, dads, that often do have problems fitting everything around their lifestyles. Recently, we've pushed out a little bit more towards, with the challenge that I run, we're going to go more towards men, because I'm finding that men generally have this problem at the moment, and it's connecting and being motivated and just being around like-minded people. So, and because I'm talking a little bit more, I'm going to be talking a lot more on my social media about veterans and supporting veterans. That's why we're going to push out towards men so much, I think.
Yeah, and I think I think it potentially can be difficult as you get a bit older, especially if you haven't really, ventured into the fitness industry. If you're coming into it and you're maybe in your 30s or 40s or 50, and you're looking at a lot of the information online about, what to do when you're in the gym and how to train, how to eat, sometimes it's very easy to look at what seems like credible information, but be going maybe down the wrong path. What do you see, people, dads or kind of older guys coming into the fitness industry? What do you think the main kind of mistakes that they're making when they're trying to get fit and healthy and lose weight and what have you?
More often than not, they overcomplicate things. So it's like they don't believe it's simple. But again, don't mistake simple with easy. Now, there is an element of, the calorie defect, bro, and those sort of guys, and the consistency, and that, I'm a big believer, and I push that consistency ninja. However, I do also, when anybody ever mentions anything about food or any nutritional elements towards their problems and their lifestyle, straight away I will just say, you need to assess what your relationships are like. Your relationships like with your missus, what's your sleep like, what's your relationship like with your kids, what's your relationship like with people at work, what are you like at work, are you happy, are you content? Because emotions is potentially always going to be the things that drive us to the non-resourceful habits.
Sure.
And that's where I sort of sit on that, which is, it's easier for me to do that because I'm comfortable in behaviour change, and I'm comfortable in talking about that and exploring how much I know and how much I can learn. Whereas when it comes to, like, one of the lads was asking one of the guys yesterday, does macros matter? Does this matter? And it's like, what time do you eat? Does that matter? And it's like, no, it doesn't really. Not if fat loss, it's total fat loss is the aim, and to maintain a bit of lean mass, focus on protein, get your calories right, that's you sorted. However, when you throw in a shit day at work and you throw in, potential of redundancy, potential of not getting your job back, then try and control what you put in your mouth. And that's where I sort of say to people, diets, the 10 a penny. The key is to get to a happy medium where you understand yourself and your relationship with food.
how do those conversations go? Because I mean, traditionally we've always, seen men as a kind of maybe a non-responsive group. If we start talking about emotions, we're much more practical. Give me a plan, Dan. How can I follow a plan or what have you? But starting to talk about some of the more
so for me,
difficult conversations. How does that?
I think it's a lot easier for me in a sense because I'm not shy of sharing how I feel. I've never been shy of sharing how I feel. I think sometimes in the past I may have bottled some things up, but I think not to be like a man up sort of situation, but more of a, I don't know if I'm ready to talk about this yet.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? It's but I build a rapport with the people I work with, certainly online, certainly in the community, to a point where they know that there'd be no judgment on what they're about to say. And don't get me wrong, we can all be judgy on certain elements, and we are either evaluating or observing behaviour all the time.
Yeah.
But when it's situations like this, and I'm in a coaching mode, I try to do my best to just observe and look under what they're saying and try to establish where that feeling's coming from. What is their need? What are their needs that's not being met in their life, and understand them as much as I possibly can to then give them some sort of, depending on what I'm talking to, if it's someone that's quite macho and he's not going to respond so much that way, it'll be a little bit more, hey bro, sort of thing.
Sure, yeah.
But if I know that they've got that soft and sensitive side on the surface anyways, it's very easy to talk about. But then when you talk in a group environment, you sort of get the comments and the engagement back from the people that are surface anyways.
Sure,
and then the ones that you think, the ones that are struggling, if I know that they're struggling and they can't sort of talk about, problems with the missus and stuff like that, I'll probably just message them and say, look, everything all right, mate? What's happening? And more often than not, they'll say, yeah, we've been up all night, there's maybe have a 6-month-old baby and stuff like that. So it's on our level, it's having that consideration, compassion, empathy, all in a one, and listening attentively to what their problem actually is, and not always giving them feedback, as in like giving them a way forward, because that has to be established on their own. All we can do is go, sometimes as a PT, online PT, whether it's exercise rehabilitation, sometimes all we need to do is listen.
Yeah, definitely. And it's difficult, isn't it? 'Cause I think as a guy and probably as a PT, someone who works with people and helps people, you always want to kind of give people the answer and give people a kind of way of moving forward. But it's not always what people need, is it? And,
no. And that's where Mike's really cool, because he's taught me a way to tell stories in a way where people can pick out what they relate to, because it relates to them. And that's how the book's written, you see. So start with one thing's written with lots and lots and lots of stories where people, I've had messages go, so me. That's so me. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm a normal bloke. I'm a humble bloke. My missus serves Queen and Country. She's a PTI, Royal Navy. I work for the MOD. We're not sort of, in a lifestyle where, we're so far up our own arse.
Yeah.
So and I think that's where the lads sort of draw to me as well, because I'm not like a, 6-minute abs sort of guy. I'm just a normal bloke that keeps himself in, reasonably good shape and just loves movement. I just love movement and fitness. I love fitness.
So in regards to that, because obviously I guess the book, as much being about behaviour change, is about starting to establish some of the, some fitness routines, some training. What's your kind of focus with the guys that you work with in terms of how you train with them? Obviously you're a keen kettlebell advocate, aren't you? Is it predominantly kettlebell based stuff, or?
Yeah, so like when I first started the Super U project, which is the challenge, I'll give loads, I give loads. True coach, everyone was on a true coach, and then I soon established like not everybody wants to train in the same way. So I soon realised that actually all I need to do is give some advice to people in that realm and say, look, if you're going to do this, maybe try this and try this. And then the recent sort of online one-to-one coaching is what I love. Kettlebell, bodyweight, slinging in some stuff what people have got. Like, one of the lads has just said, oh, can you start programming my assault bike in there as well? And some people have got barbell and stuff. But it's predominantly people that are capable, because I think online, if you're working with people that are starting from scratch and you're trying to coach them, like tricky. It's tricky. And also if you're doing group coaching, I'm a big believer, like what I deliver is exclusive, but it's not expensive. So like my online programming for the raid and the kettlebell and bodyweight stuff is only £30 a month. I don't want it to be, £150 and I'm online coaching someone for an hour, because I don't want to work with people like that. I want to work with people that are already, half decent. They might send me a video. Can you just see if I'm all right on this? Whereas the other end of the spectrum, the Super U, that's basically something to motivate people through our technology, which is my zone, something for them to get the teeth into, to have a bond, some team spirit. And all I do with those guys is just, if they've got questions, is more often than not, somebody else will want to know the answer to that. So I'll just do a little video and say, look, this and try this and try this. But that's how I manage that. But if you go into like, programming like on True Coach and stuff like that, then I think, me personally, you've got to be very wise in who you choose to work with. I don't think a lot of PTs get into, I think, a little bit of a pickle when they start bending their own. So, oh yeah, I could possibly fit myself around what you're trying to achieve. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, say Mark wants to know how to lift 250 kilo deadlift and, all them sort of things. It's like, probably not going to come to me for that. I am more, well, exactly what I say with my raid is in a constant state of readiness. So, and that's how I train. That's how I, go about my life, that's how it's being prepared. And that's, that's probably a military ethos that I've inherited, is that sort of attitude. And that's conditioning. So if you look at how I train, and my training is basically around conditioning. Sure. Very rarely do I do, 5 sets of 5 with 3 or 4 minutes rest in between.
Yeah.
But I mean, as in when I say rare, I never do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. I constantly, doing conditioning and stuff like that, and that's the people I want to attract into working with me. And if they want to do powerlifting, if I know somebody in the area that does that sort of stuff, I'll go, yeah, go see him. I think PTs don't need to be shy and afraid of referring to other people that they think is more qualified.
Yeah, certainly.
It's I think it gives you more credibility, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, so conditioning. So you mentioned already that you're not a massive fan of running in terms of the potential impact that it has on people. So how do you structure your conditioning? How would you kind of approach that? If you're not going to be doing running or traditional cycling, traditional cardio, for example, how do you kind of structure your conditioning program?
So I have the luxury of having the MyZone. So what I've been doing just recently is looking at my heart rate zones during certain exercises. So the other day I was doing a bottom-up swing. So swinging a kettlebell with a bottom-up, which causes you to pause, right? So therefore, the swing is starting to slow down. And now, as it slowed down, I was able to do 2-minute blocks. So I was able to just do that for 2 minutes solid. 5 one side, 5 the other side, 5. And my heart rate was around 70 to 75%. I also look at combinations of exercise. So if you're doing a lower body exercise, combination with an upper body exercise, you know, you've got that blood shunt where the heart's trying to supply oxygenated blood to the legs, then to the upper body, and that causes a cardiovascular response. So it's, for me, it's always playing around with stuff and combinations, and that's why I believe my personal view on programming and training is it's an art. It's an art, and there's never one masterpiece. And that's the beauty of training and exercise, is like there is no one size fits all. But there is one size that may attract a certain person, if that makes sense. But equally, some of it will still be quite different, you know. And I love sort of playing around with numbers, you know, like one of my favourites at the minute is I like the 40 seconds, 20 seconds, but of one exercise for 5 sets. That's a good conditioning. Oh, you do. And if you do like, or what I've been playing around with just recently, because I'm doing a bear crawl, a marathon bear crawl.
Oh, I saw this, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm doing a half marathon bear crawl, half marathon with the farmer's carry, but a combination. So it's like you do a bear crawl, you do the carry, bear crawl, carry. Okay. So, which should take me about 2 or 3 days, I think. But
and so, what are you doing that for charity?
Yeah, so that's for the Royal British Legion. But what I found was, what I was doing is I was sandwiching bear crawl between exercises. So you do 40 seconds, say kettlebell clean, bear crawl, kettlebell clean, left side. So you do right side, left side, bear crawl, and bear crawl between each exercise. Oh my God. It's it's pretty tasty. And
bear crawls get the heart rate going.
Yeah. But someone saying to one of my clients, they follow me in my zone, so they see my work rate. So if I do the same workout as them, they'll see my heart rate. And they're fit people, but she was saying like, well, how come you're not in this heart rate while I'm in this heart rate? And it's like, when you become ergonomical in a pattern, your heart rate tends to be less because you don't use as much effort. So if you want to change that, you need to change the stimulus. So like recently I've just gone over to ground to overheads kettlebell. Yeah, and I've been using them for conditioning. So from floor to like, well, depends how I'm feeling. Sometimes I might snatch it, sometimes I might just, clean it. And again, if you're doing it with a decent, and this is the blessing of kettlebells, it's not heavy enough most of the time, unless you start going on to the 32s, obviously, to challenge you enough to compromise you and increase your risk to injury. So like, I can do the 24 right side for 40 seconds continuously and still have good technique. Then I'll do the left side. And you do 10 sets of that's your heart rate, that's your calorie stealer. Don't need to do much after that. You see what I mean? So that's how I sort of do my conditioning with kettlebells. As soon as people step over to the kettlebell with myself, they tend to be converted, if I do say myself, because they're like, I never thought I could do this with that. Pain's always a big one. I get a lot of clients that come to me, train with me for around 6 to 12 weeks, and they're like, I've not got any pain anymore. Like, one, you're probably taking out one of the stimuluses, so maybe impact is something that was the problem before. Yeah. And you've gone, right, listen, just bear with me, cut down on this and this, and then that sort of they're sold. Anybody that you can help get them out of pain often want to stay with you. So.
Oh, big time. So it's massive. What do you think it is about the kettlebell? What do you think is different about, you know, the training that you do with kettlebells to what people have been doing previously? Do you get a lot of people who've been doing a lot of heavy strength work or kind of classes, or?
I think this with kettlebell you can go through lots of different planes of movement, can't you? So like the Turkish get up, I mean, if anyone can tell me an exercise that explores your mobility, stability, and strength in one exercise, sign me up. You know what I mean? It's like the only thing close to that, and I don't think it is the windmill.
I was just thinking in my head of windmill, yeah.
The windmill, but then, you know, even the windmill, you're not getting off the floor, and you're not getting into that position. I mean, what I do love sometimes doing is the Turkish get up and then at the top doing a couple of windmills and going back.
Sure. Yeah.
All them sort of things. But, you know, the Turkish get up, if you want to explore yourself and know, my band 7 physio at work, so he'll say he loves the Turkish get up. I've got him right into him, and he said it's like shining a torch in all those little areas that you didn't know exist in your body. I mean, someone that does a Turkish get up teach with me for 45 minutes with just body weight, the next day will be sore because they'll be using and sore in places that they didn't even know were there. You know, mid back, where I've asked them to drive the shoulders down and really retract the shoulders back and really focus on pinching that penny and all those coaching tips. You know, and then equally with the kettlebell, you can do so much. You have to focus as well. That's the thing with the kettlebell. You take your focus off a kettlebell, you're gonna be in pain. You know, it's not. You know, you can go on a machine, you can do all your sort of stuff, and even a barbell. Sometimes you can just get a little bit carried away, and maybe dumbbells. But with a kettlebell, because of the offset, you've got to focus all the time on where it is and what it's going to be doing. And I think when I did the Strong First, that was definitely something that that was embedded in my consciousness. Was like, do not certainly when you got, because if you're at a certain category in your weight, you're living with that kettlebell all weekend. So I was luckily I was at 24 kilos. Some of the bigger blokes, I was like 28 kilos, and you're with that kettlebell. That's your training weight for the weekend. So it's like 24 weight. You know, 24 weight. It's like
it's not for the faint-hearted.
No.
Yeah, I think the Snatch. I was going to do the certification last year and started. I trained for it for about 2 weeks before I tore my adductor at jiu-jitsu, so I had to put that on hold. But it's super hard. You know, that snatch test is a feat, and if you can complete that, then I'll take my hat off to you, because
it's honky. When you do it on the day as well, their assessment conditions are like nothing you've ever seen. You literally you're all split up. There's 20 odd instructors to like 50 students, which is brilliant. And you literally just someone stood behind you. You step up, 5 presses. Then the other person goes, and they literally it's like incredible. It'll never be certified in a governing body because it is elitist. It is elitist, and like I think they had quite a few fails on the snatch tests, which is common for them.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. Sure.
And it is elitist. It's like that's the standard. You don't meet the standard. See you later.
So I think that's what makes it what it is, really, isn't it?
It's very special. Like, bear in mind, I've done 6 months of PT course in the military. That was definitely up there as challenging as some of the stuff that we did on that course. Obviously, that course was like, you know, back to back, honking, sort of illegal almost. You know?
yeah.
But like the if someone wants to really test themselves and they love training and they want to learn, I would certainly say Strong First and get in touch with Claire Booth. I mean, she's just phenomenal. I think she's the head lady in. She's the head coach in Britain. She's just amazing. Amazing, yeah. And what she doesn't know is just phenomenal.
And they seem to be. This week or last week we started like a 10,000 swing challenge for our client group, just to see how 10,000 swings, get it done as quickly as you can. Basically, people have been doing pretty well. They're leaving me in their dust, but people seem to be a lot of these kind of niggles, back niggles, knee niggles, things like that seem to be kind of starting to be addressed. And I do wonder whether there's a kind of the swing seems to be a great exercise for a lot of niggles. I don't know what exactly it is about it, whether it's just the volume of low kind of intensity work that you can put through your back and your hips, compared to say heavier deadlifts, which some people just don't seem to tolerate very well, even though it's the same movement pattern.
Well, they do say there's more transfer from swing to deadlift than there is deadlift to swing. Although I would say I want to see someone perfect the hinge first before I even get them doing anything. I think with the swing, it's for me, well, everything's central nervous system in it at the end of the day. But like when I do swings, certainly at a lighter load swing, I do feel loose. I feel more mobile around the hips, definitely. The only thing with the hard style swing at the minute is it's quite irritating in my lateral knee. But I am due surgery because it's grotty.
Sure.
But before that started to get like that, the swing, the hard style swing, is definitely something that helps. But even now, with the lighter swing at the pace of what I was saying with the bottoms up, did that the other day. Next day, felt like a brand new man. That's in my program tomorrow, and it's a mindset. So like some people that's swinging a kettlebell for 30 minutes, that'd be mind numbing. You see what I mean? It'll be like, oh, that's boring. For me, that's conditioning. That's. I mean, one of my friends I follow, and she was an instructor on my course, Meg Kelly.
Oh yeah, I follow her. Yeah,
she's an absolute beast.
She's a machine.
Yeah, she's so small and she's just so lovely, but she's an absolute beast. And she's like swinging what, a 40 kilo kettlebell daily.
And she's doing it for like an hour.
Yeah.
Like every minute on the minute.
Yeah.
32 kilos for like an hour.
But she's ergonomically, she's perfection.
Yeah, I'm sure,
and this is where like people, so that for her is like going for a run.
Yeah, and that's the kind of anti-glycolytic training that the Pavel kind of is pushing at the moment. And I like it. I think it's good. And I think it's a good alternative for people who really are anti, your steady state cardio. When you look at the heart rate data, it seems to simulate that kind of, maybe like a tempo interval, something like that. You get that like up and down, but very steady.
Have you read Kenneth J?
I don't think so, no.
Read him, Kenneth J. Right? Try and get him on your show.
Actually, I think I might have heard Dr. Mike T. Nelson talking about him, actually.
He's the guy who sort of explored the bullshit terminology that came with kettlebells, burn fat, this. He actually put it into scientific terms.
Yeah. And
this is a great conditioning tool, actually. I forgot I actually said this. And this is one of my favourites, actually. If I get back into my morning training, which I'm hoping to do.
Yeah.
I mean, since lockdown, it's gone out the window, really. It's because you got all day, it's like,
I'll do it later.
Do it later. You end up doing it later anyways, like you said. Yeah. But 15 seconds on, 15 seconds off, left and right. So you could do it with, my personal preference is I like So you can do it with a snatch, light snatch. You could 16. You can do it with a gram to overhead. You can do it with a swing. With a swing, I'd go a little bit heavier. You can do it with a clean. And if you do it with a clean, I'll do clean from the floor. Is best.
Like a dead stop clean.
Yeah, it's good. And you want to be aiming for around 5 to 7 reps, depending on what discipline you're doing. 15 seconds on, 15 seconds off. Do that for 20 minutes. The pool of sweat. And the steady heart rate. So your heart rate shouldn't really go, if you're fit, this is.
Yeah.
Shouldn't really go beyond 75% max heart rate.
Sure, yeah.
And for 20 minutes, steady state cardio.
Yeah.
You know, it's I think exploring all these, and that's why like I became so fascinated, because it's not, you don't get tied into one thing, if that makes sense. But as I've got older, I've definitely become more, right, I'm going to spend more time on this because this helps me more than that. Like kettlebell definitely helps me more than a barbell, let's say. But but lots of little conditioning, little things you can do with a kettlebell.
It is, and I think conditioning is something that I really like looking at, and you can go down a bit of a rabbit hole with it, really. But there are loads of different ways of kind of getting that aerobic response. If you're not enjoying running or cycling or what have you, a kettlebell is a very versatile, tool. You can do it with a dumbbell. You could do, but there seems to be, I'd say it's probably a little bit smoother and feels a bit more of a kind of, feels like the right tool in terms of the exercises you can do and the way it sits in your hand. And I don't know exactly what it is, but it just seems to work better than moving a dumbbell around often.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, sometimes I do throw dumbbells in. I do love a gram to overhead dumbbell.
Like a dumbbell snatch kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I do love them. And I love a slow hang snatch. So just slow swing into the snatch. Just 14 kilos, no heavier than that. Just do that for around 2 minutes. I like that side of things as well. But my tool is always going to be a kettlebell with regards to what do I really focus on. It's like even a Turkish get up with a dumbbell don't feel right.
Yeah, I've done them actually. I don't mind them, but yeah, they're not quite as nice as with the kettlebell. So one thing I've seen, one of the things on your list that I've seen you call out is burpees. So I'm assuming you don't use burpees in your conditioning.
No, definitely not. And the reason being is the potential risk. So let's talk about the spine. You've spoke to Stu McGill, haven't you? So he talks about the fact that as the spine gets lower, it gets the facet joints get deeper, the lamina gets thicker in the discs. The lamina, as you get older, that starts to degrade anyways, right? So what we don't want to do is ask the core to become rigid, then ask the core to become mobile, because it's two totally different responses for the central nervous system. So when you're sort of doing burpees, you're going from extreme extension and flexion. And if you've got potential if you've got previous injuries like mine, I've got 2 disc bulges. And the disc bulges came about from doing deadlift to burpee. And I was doing that combination all the time. And then all of a sudden, pop. And I was just like, I literally couldn't feel my left side. And it was like, it was surgical, but I managed to manage it quite well to not be surgical. Right. It was just before I went on RI course. Then I went on RI course, learned about what actually was happening. Then got into kettlebells and then realised like the lumbar region is there to be stiff and rigid, The thoracic is there to be mobile. The hips are there to be mobile. And now, what I see a lot of is if I struggle to control my lumbar region during a burpee, then surely people that are untrained are going to struggle to control the core. If I see somebody that's got perfect control of that core region during a burpee, I'm like, yeah, go ahead. But after 5 reps, see if they've still got the rigidity in that core region. Most probably not. And also, it depends on what burpee people are doing. If they're doing the Royal H burpee, which is literally just hands down, legs out, legs back and up, the potential to injury there is going to be a lot less than what they do these days, where they just throw themselves on the floor and then get back up by pushing themselves right into that extreme extension. You're just like, oh my gosh. It's like, and I just think with regards to conditioning, when you're fatigued, just why would you even, the risk reward just doesn't weigh up.
And burpees are never sort of programmed in low reps either, are they? Generally, people
The rules really have it. But bear crawl, do bear crawl, walkouts.
Yeah, walkouts, great exercise.
Yeah, you know, or combination of squat with a walkout. You know, squat, walkout, press, walk back, squat. That'll get your heart rate up.
Yeah.
You know, and most of the time, why do people throw a burpee to tire somebody out? That's all, really. It's like, you know, it's not a smart, in my opinion, it's not a smart PT's exercise. A smart PT would have a combination of something that keeps the client safe and also teaches them something that's going to be beneficial.
So you spoke a little bit about kind of core stiffness there, and I know another one of the things that you said, your unpopular opinions, was you don't rate sit-ups for the core. If you're not doing sit-ups for the core, kind of how do you approach your core training?
So it's funny you should say that. Actually, we did core. We've been doing training with next door during lockdown.
Oh, okay, nice. That's good.
We haven't got no fences in the front garden, so it's all like open. And what did we do tonight? We did plank, side plank. In my opinion, master the side plank, come back to me. That is it's horrendous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very, very tough.
There's not one time I do a side plank and go, yeah, this is easy. Not one time. Plank, side plank. We'll do single arm farmers carries. Front load carries. They're extraordinary on the core.
Rack carries.
Dead happy, so dead bugs with the kettlebell, dropping back. Even sitting right up in the sit-up position, but just chest pushed out, spine rigid, and just hold that position, and literally just little movements. For me, it's about the load going through the spine itself, and also the mechanism and technical ability of the client. Because most of the time, they haven't got no control. They're just slinging themselves up and going back down. You're like, you're probably not causing enough tension to even get any sort of response there. And let's go back to why what is the core's primary purpose? Is to prevent unwanted movement. So what we want to do is create anti-movement, anti-flexion, anti-extension, anti-lateral movement, anti-rotation, and then that's when you've got a good core set up.
Yeah. And I guess, going back to back pain, this is going to be one of the kind of fundamental
key,
principles to starting to address. Probably not for everyone in terms of back pain, but certainly for a large proportion of people, dealing with back pain, building a stronger, more rigid core is going to be really, really important.
Well, it's like when people got back pain, go to yoga. need to go to yoga. I'm like, oh, well, it's like another Stu McGillism. I suppose we've actually got a bit of a man crush on him, haven't we?
Probably.
he says like constantly going into flexions, like picking a scab, and I didn't really get that until I've referred it back to my own experience. So I thought every time I had an episode of back pain, I used to go to yoga because I thought, oh, I'll go to yoga. Everyone says about yoga, and I'd feel all right during it. And I think, oh yeah, it feels better. Then the next day I'd just be raging back pain. And all we've done there is that we've allowed the mechanisms in muscles, so the Golgi tendon organs, the muscle spindles, and the receptors to release enough to dampen the pain response for enough time to sort of forget about the pain for that period of time. But all we're doing is re-injuring the tissue by picking the scab. So once I understood that, I then was like, well, actually, yoga's not the best thing for every back pain patient at all. In fact, actually, probably not good for, disc bulges to start with. Maybe when we start reintroducing some, controlled flexion and stuff like that, yes, but definitely not in an acute phase. Definitely not in an acute phase. No chance. So it's like, if you go one-on-one with a yoga instructor, fair play. But if you go into a class where you're not going to be managed that well, probably not the best idea.
It's yeah, I think I'd sing from exactly the same song sheet there, and it's the class environment in kind of mobility work and stretching work for someone who's got a back problem, back injury, is not a good place to be, because with the best will in the world, you're dishing out, stretches and movement, which, for a lot of people, 60+% of people are going to be absolutely fine and be great. Yeah. And yeah, like you say, for that person, maybe as an acute intervention for tightness that they might be experiencing, they might get some short-term relief, but the long-term benefit maybe is not quite there. And actually, yeah, like you say, it might actually make them feel worse longer term. So what would be your approach if someone's not responding well to stretching and mobilizing and a kind of yoga-y approach? How would you advise that person?
Firstly, again, going back to strength. So if there's some tightness, more often than not, there is a culprit who is weak around the area that's tight. So the best example, which I always use, which people tend to sort of go, oh, right, okay, is the hamstrings. My hamstrings are tight. Possibly the hamstrings are doing so much work and stabilizing the pelvis, which isn't their job really, because maybe the glutes are problematic. And more often than not, they're easy to pick on. They're very easy to pick on, like the core, very easy to pick on. So it's like when muscles start to do other muscles' jobs, they become irritable, they become tight, because they're becoming weaker, because they just can't take the stress anymore. So I would tend to go find out what needs to be strengthened first, then we start to look at how we can mobilize that. But mobility-wise, I tend to just stick to around, the hip and shoulder and thoracic span mainly with people, and that's often enough. So I've got a little routine which I picked up off a guy called Tom Morgan. I went and spent an afternoon with him. Absolute monster of a guy, ripped, shredded, but absolutely mobile as.
Sure.
And it was literally just some thoracic extension in a child pose, but a high child pose. So like a downward dog, but with your knees down sort of thing.
Okay.
And then it's all like sinking. So mobility is, again, like strength, is knowing what you're supposed to be focusing on and sinking into and breathing into. And I often find breathing is the main factor when it comes to mobilities. Breathing into the space that we want to create.
Sure.
And what I would say, what I'd say to go from sort of that sort of extension pattern, then coming into some sort of hip extension and open up, and what else is that as well? Yeah, then in slinging round, so you sort of really open up the lats. People that do a lot of strength training and upper body stuff often get really tight around the lats. Tightness around the lats is going to feed into the hip eventually. So, and it's just being aware of what problem can be solved with by understanding why that might affect this and why the shoulder might affect the hip and stuff like that. But it's being aware of what you're trying to achieve when it comes to mobility, I think, and is it the fact that it needs to be more mobile, or is it the fact that we need to find out what needs strengthening?
Yeah, and I think if anyone's watching this and they haven't watched the episode with Dr. Stu McGill, go and watch that one. But he talks about this kind of continuum between the yogi master and the kind of world record powerlifter, and how one is going to be very supple and mobile and probably have quite a kind of thin and mobile spine, and another is going to be very stiff and rigid and have a very thick and immobile spine. And both of those people need their bodies to react in that way to do their jobs or do their sports or whatever.
Yeah.
And I guess we could probably put people somewhere along that continuum, and if they're in pain, maybe moving them away from the side that they're closer to could be a good way to kind of start to address some of that pain.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's like if you've got big rugby lads that are coming in, which we often quite do, and they've got back pain, then you've got to definitely, I just saw, well, this is sort of where I would go down, and it is more hip and shoulder based and thoracic based and keeping the spine. But like you say, if you get, more often than not, it's going to be female in my environment that are quite slender and small, then they might tolerate more flexion than that sort of guy because he's just a big guy, solid. But it's good that you sort of brought that up actually, because I remember reading that and I'm thinking, that's a good way of looking at it. I like continuums.
Yeah, definitely. And most stuff in fitness and health and fitness and what have you can be put onto some sort of continuum. It's a helpful way to kind of give people examples of what you're talking about. But Dan, so I want to ask you just last couple of questions. Is one that I ask everyone. I think this would be good for yourself because you're kind of in the market of working with dads and kind of your regular Joes, people who aren't looking for insane transformations and world record kind of powerlifting squats and all this sort of stuff. What would you say were your three biggest hitters to improve your kind of health and performance on a day-to-day basis? What are the three areas that you'd really work on with people?
Walking. So daily.
Okay.
Yeah, a daily. If you're just sort of getting into things, see if you can do a daily walk consistently for 10 days, just 30 minutes consistently. See what that does for your mental health. Consistently 10 days. That's a challenge, 30 minutes. Next one, focus on the core. Focus on the core and the glutes. So core and glutes together. Don't get misled by thinking that it's all about the guns and the chest and all that sort of stuff. Don't get me wrong. I like a bit of guns and chest workouts like any other bloke, but I would not do that anymore at the sacrifice of core and glutes. And then my last one would probably be the Turkish get-up. Regardless whether it be body weight, with a shoe, whatever it is, if you can do 5 each side daily. If it's with weight, 5 each side. If it's not with weight, 10 each side. Spend some time in every single pose. Take a deep breath in each single pose. Come back to me. So your program would be walking 30 minutes, get back, say 20 seconds plank, 20 seconds side plank, 20 seconds other side plank, maybe 3 or 4 sets of that, then 10 Turkish get-ups each side. Mate, that's a pretty decent workout, that.
Sounds like a great session, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's some pretty simple advice, for people who are kind of, perhaps getting into the fitness industry, or maybe have got some weight to lose, or trying to improve their health, their blood pressure's too high or whatever. Being faced with something like that as an intervention is pretty encouraging, really, isn't it? Because it's easy to get bogged down with, like, I've got to go and run 5K, I've got to go and squat, bench and deadlift, and I've got to do my bicep work and all this sort of stuff,
Yeah, it's that's why I think certainly as I've sort of started to raise my profile a little bit more, but writing for magazines and stuff, people still expect me to talk about real, groundbreaking stuff, but it's like, what? I'll tell you an example. So I went to a seminar, and this guy is doing the strength and conditioning program for the special forces.
Okay.
Oh, and he said, nothing sexy, everything's really basic. All the special forces is they're better than everybody else at doing the basics.
Mm.
And knowing that I've got, one of my best friends is SF. He's definitely the definition of that. He's very basic, sticks to the simple stuff, but he does it very well.
Mm. Yeah, that's great advice. I think that's just great advice for life, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
As well as sort of going down that fitness and weight loss journey. Yeah, really good, and consistency being one of the main variables.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, look, Dan, thanks for coming on. It's been great chatting to you. I think there's some great bits of info there that we've spoken about, lots of different things actually, but some really good takeaway stuff that people can start putting into their kind of training and their lifestyles at the moment. Where can people get hold of you if they want to work with you, or if they want to read more about what your message?
Instagram, I'm at Dan Fallon PT, and that's the same on social media as in Facebook or Super U Project. I'm on Instagram and Facebook with that as well. Or they could go to my website, which will get a free kettlebell workout, is www.superuproject.com.
Great stuff. Cool. Well, yeah, I'll include those links in the show notes below if you're watching on Instagram, and they'll be on whichever podcast, on YouTube or whatever podcast platform people are accessing us on. And yeah, hopefully we'll be able to get you back another time. I only live down the road from you, so we need to when all this social distancing is over, we need to
get a coffee.
Yeah, and have a workout as well.
100%, mate.
That'll be good. All right, thanks, Dan.
Take it easy, bro. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, guys. Really enjoyed having that chat with Dan. Some great takeaways regarding mindset and consistency, and looking at kind of how you're approaching your food and your training. Slightly different stuff to the things that we've been over on previous podcasts. So, and definitely some of the side of the kind of journey of change that is potentially, the most profound and maybe some of the more difficult bits. So if those are bits you think you're struggling with, go and check out Dan's book. You can get it on Amazon. If you enjoyed today's podcast, then please like, comment and share. Get it out there so we can keep making great content like this for you. We've got some great podcasts coming up with some great names and some really interesting subjects like sleep and hydration and nutrition. So look out for those, and we'll see you guys next time.